What's up, all you recruiting fans out there? Mallory Hartley, Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and welcome to a special edition of Dave Campbell's Rising, and happy National Signing Day. Of course, we are just about to put the bow on the class of 2026 here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football, but I couldn't do it alone. I had to bring in my partner in crime, and that's the Director of Recruiting here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. It's Greg Powers.
What's up, y'all? Happy National Signing Day.
Happy National Signing Day. You know, it doesn't feel maybe as big as early National Signing Day did back in December, but to us, it's still such a big event.
Here's how I look at this signing day now. This is like Christmas of signing, right? There's a lot of pressure. Playoffs are going on. State championship games are on the horizon during the early signing period. Some of the top teams are competing and jockeying for college football championship aspirations. Bowl games are going on. But this is the day that you can really sit back and enjoy it. Open those presents under the tree. Kick back, watch some tape, and see who are going to be the next big stars playing for your program. Spring ball just around the corner.
Spring ball just around the corner. So let's go ahead and jump right in to talking about the class of 2026. We'll start off with a couple of notable headlines that we want to talk about, some hard-hitting headlines that we think is necessary to talk about today. We'll go through the updated Rising Hot 100 that you've been working tirelessly on the past couple of weeks. A long weekend that you had this weekend to do that. We'll dive deep into the Rising Top 100 and kind of look at the breakdown of where these players are going, which colleges maybe signed more Texas players than others, and then we'll round it all out with an updated Rising class of 2027.
Let's do it.
Does that sound good?
Let's go. I'm ready. You know I'm ready.
Let's jump right into top headlines and notes. Now, Powers, while the majority of the class of 2026 may have signed their national letter of intent back in December. A couple of them, of course, like we just mentioned, waited until today to do so for various reasons. I mean, some could be coaching changes. Some simply just maybe wanted to wait a little bit longer to make this huge decision. One of those programs that we're specifically going to talk about is North Texas.
Yep.
We didn't get to talk about North Texas as much during early National Signing Day because they had major coaching changes. Of course, Eric Morris, the previous head coach of the University of North Texas, now on to Oklahoma State, where he took most of his staff with him to Oklahoma State. They made the hire, North Texas made the hire of Neil Brown to bring in, and he's kind of already established his new staff there up in Denton, Texas. And now they've been able to bring in their own guys. They've been able to sign a couple of class of 2026 guys, specifically from the state of Texas, like Casey Ekwu, Kason Applewhite, Jarius Singletary, and Adadrian Nettles.
Yeah, and Lathan Lashaway's letter of intent just rolled in. So, I mean, there is some happenings going on right now on National Signing Day. Well, the new staff coming in gave UNT an ability to go after some of the top uncommitted guys and some of the top unsigned guys. You know, Lathan Lashaway was committed to Tulsa. So that was a flip. I really like Casey Ekwu. This is a guy that I think has a lot of potential there. They attacked the transfer portal, of course, very aggressively, approaching 50.
50, right?
Approaching 50 guys. So this was a true roster turnover, but there's plenty of room for some of these top high school guys. And one of those guys who isn't signed but is on that commitment list that I know that we love a whole lot, and that's Anna quarterback Zyondre Williams. It was really cool to see that he got the opportunity to play in Denton because I think he's the type of guy who could develop into a true superstar. And one of the great wrinkles about his game, he's a tremendous dual threat quarterback. But if it didn't work out at quarterback, he's got 4.4 speed. He's like a 4.0 something 5'10" guy. He is an elite athlete at the quarterback position. We've always enjoyed him at quarterback. One, because he plays with an aggressive style. He's got a high football IQ, and he's a state champion, right? So he's always been one of our favorite guys to watch underneath the Friday night lights, and I'll be excited to see his development in Denton.
Well, he led Anna to a state championship title when he was only a sophomore, too, which I think is really impressive. I think he kind of reminds me a little bit of Chris Jimerson, who they already have up in Denton right now, who played at North Crowley. Yeah, won a state championship for North Crowley last season. I kind of see the similarities between the two. Both dual threat quarterbacks, both athletes, very, very high football IQ. I can see the similarities between the two. But nonetheless, North Texas has been they've been hard at work, especially in the transfer portal, but have also really put emphasis on bringing in their own guys in the class of 2026 from the state of Texas.
These are the developmental guys, the guys that you want to get in your program, you want to add depth, but they're looking at guys, and a lot of these colleges are looking at guys that can come in and make an early impact now, right? And for having a late signing class, the commitments on their commit list are pretty good. They're pretty solid. But, up and down some of these lists in Texas, Texas schools killed it this year, whether you're at the P4 level or you're at the G5 level. Even D2s, the D2s killed it this year too. So there's a lot of depth in Texas, and these colleges are taking advantage of that.
Absolutely. North Texas, you get the stamp of approval from the rising crew here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Keep up the good work. Let's move on. I'm going to group these two together. Two other notable signees from today in the class of 2026 that we wanted to talk about. Both are going to pursue a career at the next level in the Big Ten. One of them being at Michigan, Indy Etta, outside linebacker for Liberty Christian, who is also the little brother of Eno Etta, who was a defensive lineman at Grapevine Covenant Christian, Colleyville Covenant, not Grapevine, Colleyville Covenant Christian Academy down there in Grapevine, and Case Evans, quarterback at Lexington. Now his recruitment has been kind of snip, snap, but it really hasn't been his fault. A lot of coaching changes. If you remember back a couple of months ago, he was just committed to Oklahoma State. Of course, Mike Gundy left the program and then committed to Iowa State. Matt Campbell gets the job at Penn State, and he's going to follow Matt Campbell to Penn State.
Well, you had the chance to watch him in person, albeit it was a truncated game because they had to end the game early due to a severe injury. But Case Evans at 6'2", maybe 6'3", 200 pounds, follows Matt Campbell to Happy Valley. And I think that he is a traditional quarterback. Whenever you think of a QB who can sit back in the pocket, has the ability to push the ball out to the hash marks, make those tough throws in tight windows, I think about Case Evans. And one of the things that I really love about his game is that he made year-over-year improvement. He was always very technically sound, but whenever we saw him first play as a sophomore at the state 7-on-7 tournament and on his sophomore tape, he's developed arm strength since that time. And I think that as a quarterback who's walking into a Penn State program that's going to be looking to reload in a lot of ways, he's the type of guy who you can put in there at day one. He's going to work really hard to get better. And then 2 or 3 years down the road, if Case Evans wins that starting job, people across the country and the national media are going to be like, hey, look at this quarterback. He's highly productive, and he's extremely efficient. Where did he come from? They're going to be looking back at our rankings, hopefully, and see that he came from Texas, and he was rated as the number 6 quarterback in the state.
And moving on to Colorado, they've been able to sign a couple of stud Texas high school football players in the class of 2026. One of them being Braylon Edwards, safety from Duncanville. He flipped his commitment from SMU to Colorado. Another one, Cam Newton, not big Cam Newton, the little Cam Newton. Right?
Yeah, Prosper Walnut Grove's
Prosper
Cam Newton.
Walnut Grove, probably one of the most underrated running backs in the class of 2026, amassing 5,000 career rushing yards just this past season. And then Jacob Swain, athlete from Melissa, who was at one time a Rice commit.
Yeah, I'm going to start with Braylon Edwards because this is a guy that made our DCTX Rising Top 25 freshman list 4 years ago, so he's been on the radar for a really long time. He was with Wilmer Hutchins at that point, finished his last 2 seasons off at Duncanville, one of the biggest, baddest 6A programs, not only in Texas, but the entire country, biggest of the big, right, here in Texas. And he was an absolute force this year, and he played safety. He has experience playing corner. I think he could play nickel, so I love his versatility as a guy who can come in and impact that Colorado Buffaloes defense. And also he's going to be getting to learn from one of the best defensive back coaches in the world, and Deion Sanders. So I think that gives him an advantage. Cam Newton, though, I mean, he finished his Texas high school football career off so strong. I think this is an under-the-radar get for Colorado. He produces. He's a guy that's used to getting 30 touches a game. And this class in Texas at the running back position, the top 10 rankings were so difficult. It is absolutely loaded. There was 13 or 14 P4 worthy guys, and there were 5 or 6 guys who could have been in that P4 range who aren't going to go to P4 schools. The running back class in Texas is absolutely stacked. 4 guys in the top 16.
Yeah, I mean, and we've been talking about that since day one, that we were going to already have a tough time making those rankings because the running back class this year is so, so deep. But congratulations to all 3 of those guys for signing to go play at the next level at Colorado. And let's go ahead and round out this segment. I'm going to give Gavin Moritz, our social media coordinator, credit for this one because he's the one that pointed this out to me. TCU, the Horned Frogs, they put out a graphic earlier today that says that they were the only FBS school in the state of Texas to bring in all of its high school signees from Texas high schools. That is a huge accomplishment. And you talk about that paying dividends to the future signees of TCU football that are from the state of Texas. I mean, that's a huge pipeline.
Well, Sonny Dykes, I will go ahead and give him credit. I feel like he is the transfer portal originator when he was at SMU, right? He was the guy who kind of set the standard for what the transfer portal was going to eventually become. They were ahead of the curve. And what they're doing with their roster now is definitely mixing in a great blend of developmental high school players with extremely high ceilings, guys that you can get in the program who love the game, who are going to stick around in Fort Worth. And we see a lot of negative comments sometimes now as it relates to some of this recruiting because they're like, oh, well, this guy's just going to transfer. Well, if you get guys who buy into the program and you get guys who love the game, want to play for these coaches, they're not going to transfer. They're not all guys that are just out there trying to chase the bag, as everybody likes to say. And I'm going to start at the top of this list for TCU. Carter Buck, an absolute terror at defensive end. DCTX 4-star. Coach Hank Carter at Lake Travis said that he might be the best defensive player that he's ever coached. At Lake Travis, that is quite a compliment. He can pin his ears back and get after the quarterback, but what I really love about his upside and his potential is that he could be a guy that plays so hard versus the run. He uses his hands well to get off the blocks, chases down ball carriers with a hot motor. I really love his game. And another guy, Jason Bradford. He's the second 4-star in this class, played at Temple High School. It's a blue blood type of high school here in the Lone Star State that's known for producing guys who are great on the defensive side of the ball, especially Torian York at Texas A&M. Jason Bradford is a guy that I think with his 6'3" size, he has a lot of experience playing cornerback. I think he transitions to safety in Fort Worth, and I think he's a guy who could actually hear his name called in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft here in the near future. But if there's a position group I'm going to shout out, I'm going to stick on running backs because it's such a deep running back class, and they got 2 guys in this class, and I think there's an argument to be made about who could be the best one, but they're so very different. Giivory Graham from San Antonio Harlan, he is a take the top off of the defense speedster out of the backfield who has a lot of experience splitting out wide and doing some different things. As a pass catcher, I love that about his game. And Amonte Martin at PA Memorial had a tremendous senior season. They went all the way to the state semifinal. They only lost 1 game all year. He transitioned from running back to quarterback, showing off his high football IQ. And, of course, he's the younger brother of Florida State running backs coach Cam Martin, so it runs in the Martin family of being a top recruit, being a top producer. I think Amonte Martin is the future workhorse of the TCU backfield.
I agree with that. And I want to bring it back real quick to a point that you made earlier, kind of about, keeping guys there, right? And you go down this list, like you just mentioned, Carter Buck, Jason Bradford, Giivory Graham, Jesse Ford. These are all guys that committed to go play at TCU early on and stuck with it. And I think that's also notable as well.
I do too. And there's just a lot of sleepers in this class. TCU always does a tremendous job in the evaluation game. And these are football playing dudes because I just start looking down at it. And I feel like some of the guys on the list are a little bit underrated. Jack Dalton, Maddox Flint, Cooper Reed, Vincent Johnson, and Devin Robinson. These are 2 offensive linemen who just missed the cut of being within the top 10 overall interior offensive linemen. They're both ranked in the top 10 of the offensive guards in this class, but I really think that those 2 guys have a chance. Vincent Johnson especially. Sulphur Springs was really good this year, and he is
underrated.
an absolute he's huge. Legit 6'6". And when we say a lot of guys 6'6", maybe sometimes they're 6'5". This dude's legit.
He passes the eyeball test.
He's a big boy.
He's a big boy. And Braden Bach, too. We had the
Braden
honors of broadcasting his live commitment.
Yeah,
one of the
funnest live commitments we had. What an atmosphere was. And he plays for an Argyle program underneath of Todd Rogers, who, again, talent pipeline.
Yeah, and they continue to put out linemen like that, too, on a consistent basis. I don't know what they're feeding those kids down there in Argyle, but they just consistently have, even Melissa, they've just got big offensive linemen.
Well, I'll shout out their youth league programs, their middle schools, like even thinking back to my kids playing football against those guys when they were in high school, every team, whether it was the JV B team or the freshmen, those dudes all are big. They're all bought in, and they're just fun to watch. And they develop those guys year over year with their schemes, with their systems, and whenever they hit that high school level, they're ready to go.
Absolutely. Well, Powers, speaking of the top 10, like you just mentioned, let's go ahead and take a look at our updated Rising Hot 100 prospects in the state of Texas. Specifically, we'll talk about the top 10, because I know this gave you nightmares, probably
still,
since we started creating these rankings, since we started organizing the class of 2026, finally putting a bow on it today. What I want to ask you is, when you take a look at the top 10 in the class of 2026, what were some of the biggest changes that you had to make?
Well, the one big change in the top 10 was Jaimion Winfield from Richardson. He went to the Navy All-American Bowl and absolutely dominated. As a matter of fact, some of the services were saying that he had the number 1 performance at that game. Then he went on to the Polynesian Bowl out in Hawaii, also dominated there, had a tremendous career at Richardson High School after moving in from out of state. His junior tape was really eye-opening, right? And we said this on some of the things where we were breaking down some of the top defensive linemen in this state. Winfield had the best get-off, was the most aggressive and the quickest off the ball of any tape on an interior defensive lineman that I've watched since Ed Oliver. So
that's high praise.
the accolades, the opportunity was there, but he was much bigger his senior year. He checked in at the Navy All-American Bowl at 327 pounds.
That's crazy.
So he is an absolute monster, right? He's a big, big dude up front. What I really loved about him playing in that game is it gave him a chance to go up against high-quality offensive linemen, not only in practice, but on the big stage when the pads were on, when the lights were shining brightest, and he played extremely well. We always knew that he could get after it and sack the quarterback and all that kind of stuff. Well, that changes whenever you get into college. You have to be more of a guy who plays gap sound, technique, take on your blockers, do your job, and sometimes a quick get-off doesn't equate to success in that setting because you have to do your job. Well, I saw him doing his job, taking on double teams, making things open up behind him so linebackers could make plays. If he's that guy, we could be looking back and saying this USC Trojans commit should have been a 5-star.
I agree with that. And I think one of the constants that have kind of stayed consistent throughout the updated rankings in the class of 2026 is probably that number 1 spot with Keyshawn Henderson, quarterback at Houston Legacy. Now, different sites had him as different things, right? A lot of different sites had him as an athlete, and then we've just kind of consistently kept him at the quarterback position. Now he is seen as a quarterback, right? But tell me a little bit about what went through your mind kind of through Keyshawn's recruitment and why you decided to keep him at the number 1 spot.
Well, I think for me in this class, you're looking at the top 2, right? And I think that was the true battle at the end of the day between Keyshawn Henderson, who signed with Houston. He's the highest rated Houston signee of all time. Keyshawn Henderson is an absolute dude. 6'3". He can absolutely throw the ball down the field, pushes the ball with ease. I mean, we saw him rip it on the DCTX Rising Game of the Week, 70 yards, no problem. This dude can absolutely throw. But he has it upstairs. That's what I love about his game and why I think that he's going to be the future of the Cougars offense is because he's a guy that you can build a team around. People rally to him. He's a guy that people believe in. Recruits believe in him. They want to play with him. He's the cornerstone of the future of this program for Willie Fritz. The keys to the city.
The keys to the city.
That's what that's the tagline that they gave to Keyshawn Henderson the year. Keys to the city. And I believe in that. I think that he's a guy who can also beat you with his legs. He is a tremendous athlete. He can chew up 10 yards in about 3 steps, so he can really get it going. And we think about these guys as dual threats, as being run-first type of guys. The thing that I really enjoyed about Keyshawn Henderson's game throughout the course of his senior season is he's a guy who looks to throw but also knows that he can absolutely destroy you on the ground. And that really puts defensive coordinators at a disadvantage because if you put a spy on him, it's going to open up the passing game. And if you don't put a spy on him or you try to play man-to-man coverage, he is going to destroy you with his legs. So it's that dual threat ability that makes him special, and he was the wire-to-wire 5-star for us this year, number 1 from start to finish.
Absolutely. The talent, there's no shortage of talent in Texas high school football, and it's easy to see here for the top 10 in the class of 2026 and the Rising Hot 100. We are Dave Campbell's Rising. We're a show dedicated to shining the spotlight on athletes all across the state of Texas. Don't go away. We'll be back in just a second for a deeper dive in the Rising Top 100. One Texas high school will win bragging rights and a $5,000 award in the Texas Department of Transportation's Saved by the Belt Challenge. Students, all you need to do is go to texasfootball.com and pledge to always wear your seatbelt. Every seat, every ride, every day, and every night. The school with the most pledges will win. Buckling up can save you an expensive ticket and even your life. Click it or ticket. My name is Mallory Hartley, and I'm the coordinating producer of recruiting. And sitting alongside me, it's my partner in crime, the director of recruiting at Dave Campbell's Texas Football, Greg Powers. Howdy.
Howdy.
We're just moments away Cockrum, Braden Bach,
Striker Reed,
Jalen Lott, Savorian Martin. Donovan Webb is about to make his college commitment announcement. So you can hear the crowd behind us. Everybody is super excited.
This is really something special.
Thank you for any trainers and people who helped me, especially my mom and dad.
I want to thank everybody for coming out today for my commitment.
I thank my parents, my grandparents, everybody's here right now supporting me.
I'm going to be committing to
University of Oregon.
Go play football and run track again.
TCU.
I got to get my let's go in, you know?
Let's go! Welcome back into Dave Campbell's Rising. Happy National Signing Day. We just got through explaining the Rising Top 10 in the class of 2026. So let's go ahead and break it down a little bit further and talk about the Rising Top 100 in the class of 2026 and kind of see how they fare with schools maybe not in the state of Texas. So I did some digging. Powers, I went into the numbers. I went into the weeds for this one. And we took a look at how in-state programs recruited in the state of Texas and how out-of-state programs recruited in the state of Texas. And checking in at number one, I guess tied for number one in the state of Texas, who signed the most players in the class of 2026, the Texas Longhorns with 10 signees and the TCU Horned Frogs with 10 signees. And of course, you can see Texas A&M following closely behind with 9, SMU as well with 9, Texas Tech at 8, and Houston with 6 for in-state programs.
You know, we spent a lot of time talking about TCU. We have to shine some of the spotlight on the Texas Longhorns, who signed one of the top classes nationally, right? Wouldn't be able to talk about National Signing Day with some of the top-tier programs in the state. And one of the best in this class, Jermaine Bishop Jr. Built Ford tough, Mr. Texas football.
Heck
Jermaine
yes.
Bishop Jr. And the number 2 prospect in our top 10, DCTX 5-star, an absolute dog. And he plays with a great mentality. He's an attacker. He's a 3-phase playmaker because he's a great return guy. I would say that maybe he's the best return guy in the state. I even saw him do some punt return, some punt fakes where they roll him out, and if you gave him a crease, he would just take off. Mm-hmm. So he was such a weapon there for Trent Miller at Willis. I think that when he first started on the recruiting radar, I thought, lock it in. This dude's going to be a lockdown cornerback. And we saw him take out some of the top-tier receivers, state 7-on-7, underneath the Friday Night Lights. He's just a guy that you don't want to test. He plays way bigger than his 5'10", 160 measurables out there on the island because he plays aggressively. He can swivel his hips and hang with a receiver in tight coverage. And he's got some world-class speed. You know, he's a guy who can really run, especially in the pads. I don't know what his 40 time is, but go to a game, watch Jermaine Bishop. He's the fastest player on the field. But as his career unwound itself, he became one of the most elite stat-producing wide receivers in the history of Texas high school football. So Texas has an opportunity to be able to use him as a 2-way playmaker, maybe even a 3-phase playmaker at the college level. But I'm not convinced anymore that he's just going to be a cornerback. I actually think now, because he's so dangerous with the football in his hands, that he's going to get a chance to play wide receiver at Texas out of the gate. I think that transition's a little bit tougher, go to wide receiver and then try to play defensive back in college. If you started at DB, then it may be a little bit easier to transition to wide receiver. So that may lock him in on the offensive side of the ball, but I don't care. He's a 5-star kick returner, he's a 5-star defensive back, and he's a 5-star wide receiver. Give him the flowers.
Yeah, give him his flowers because he deserves it. Even that game we went to together against Forney, it was a playoff game.
Yeah.
I mean, I was sold. I've been sold, but like seeing him in person and being able to produce the type of stats that he does on the field game after game after game, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, I think he scored a touchdown in 5 different ways.
Yeah.
When we were there at that Forney game.
Yeah, and then
a
sealed
pick
the
and
game.
A forced fumble.
I was going to say, like, sealed the game with that game-sealing interception or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
he was just absolutely incredible to see in person. Huge pickup for the Texas Longhorns. And then I think Texas Tech is worth noting as well. They signed 2 of the top guys in their respective position groups, in Felix Ojo and Donovan Webb, who we got to do his commitment as well.
Yeah, I was going to shout out with I have the sticker on the back of my computer from Donovan Webb's commitment ceremony there at Frisco Panther Creek. I mean, Texas Tech, I think this is their highest rated signing class of all time. So, yeah, they're really good. Felix Ojo, 5-star, the cover boy of DCTX Rising magazine. And they're already off to a great start in 2027, which we'll get more to that later. But Texas A&M, too. This Texas A&M recruiting strategy underneath of Mike Elko is really interesting to me, and it's really interesting because they're not afraid to recruit nationally, and they beat out some top-tier programs for some of the top stars across the country. Their recruiting class is really good, but they also understand that they have to go hard in Texas. And from the very start, day one that Mike Elko got the job in College Station, I think that he made it abundantly clear that he wasn't going to recruit guys who didn't love the game. They have great character. They love to play football. And constantly when you're talking to their head coaches, these are the guys who first in, first out. Time after time. Zayden Crimpen, first in, first out. Puts in the work. KJ Edwards, 4-year varsity player at Carthage. Multi-time state champion. First in, first out. Loves the game. Loves to play football. Jaden Warren. Absolute speed to take the top off of a defense.
Tank King.
Tank King. And I think actually I would say Tank King is one of the state's more underrated prospects because he's another one of these guys where if you go to a PA Memorial game, Tank King, sideline to sideline, and he gets kind of pegged in. I think he'll be an inside backer. I think that's his best skill. He's a fill guy. He's a guy who can tackle extremely well. But his sideline to sideline ability actually impressed me more than I thought it was, especially throughout the course of his senior season. But credit to Texas A&M and their way that they recruit the state. They're doing their homework. They're talking to the coaches, and they're getting guys who want to win.
Absolutely. And now looking at the out-of-state programs that have signed the most Texas high school football players in the class of 2026. And the top one kind of surprises me. It's the Oklahoma Sooners with 5 signees.
Why does it
from
surprise
Texas. It feels like they were kind of behind.
Yeah,
in
I
their
agree.
Texas pipeline earlier on in the season when they just had a commitment from tight end Ryder Mix. But then they kind of just slowly crept up on people. And I think when Bo Bentley made his commitment to the Oklahoma back in the summer is kind of when things got rolling a little bit.
I agree with that 100%. I remember talking about when they had one commitment from Ryder Mix, we were actually putting a little bit of pressure, I would say, on OU's recruiting process in Texas, saying things like, well, if they don't turn it around, could this be the end of an era, basically? There aren't too many Oklahoma classes that I think about that aren't built around Texas high school football talent. And it was a truly slow start because I think it was Ryder Mix, led into Noah Best, led into Bo Bentley, so on and so forth, right? And I think the Bo Bentley signing, he's the number 7 quarterback in the Lone Star State rankings this year, the Rising 100. That places him among the top 10 highest rated quarterbacks of all time since we've been doing rankings here at Dave Campbell's. 2012 was our first class that we had listed on the site. That puts him at number 10 all time. So the expectations for Bo Bentley at Oklahoma should be through the roof, right? And I think he's a guy that can carry that weight. Led Salina to a state championship game as a junior, racked up a ton of wins on the field. And we think about him also as being like a pass first or a pocket strictly QB. I think he's a guy that's athletic enough that you have to respect his game on the ground. Yeah. I really do. And I think that's a sneaky quality. He's big and physical too, thick guy, right? He can take on those tacklers. But the one thing that stands out to me about Bo Bentley and why I was bullish on keeping him within that top 10, he feels pressure. And it's just a quality that can't be coached. You can see it on tape. Whenever that pocket is closing around him, there's an internal clock for him to get rid of the ball and how to escape the pocket properly, to not extend plays out and make a bad situation worse. Yeah, he can really do that, and I think it's something that he possesses internally, and that's something that's hard to define.
And that's why he's a guy that's been in our top 10 for a while now.
He's a wire to wire.
We'll finish off in the top 10 in the class of 2026 within our Rising Hot 100. Now, Powers, before we move on from this segment, I want to ask you a question. Which conference do you think has the most signees from the state of Texas?
I mean, I'm going to go with the Big Ten because they have so many schools now. It's
You can say the same thing for the
I guess
SEC.
it would be easy to say the SEC because they have so many programs rooted right around in this area. But I think about the Big Ten being coast to coast now a little bit differently, where the SEC is more geographically located.
That's not right.
It's not?
It's not right.
Who is it? How far off am I? Where did the Big Ten check in?
The Big Ten checked in at number 3. The number
Oh,
1
wow.
is the Big 12.
Okay.
With 34 signees
Wow,
within
the Big
the
Ten
state
wasn't
of
even
Texas.
close.
Big Ten has 15, so they're still making waves in the state of Texas. But I just thought even they beat out the SEC, which, the SEC's got more programs in it than the Big 12 does.
Well, I mean, credit to Houston and TCU and these programs that concentrated on recruiting Texas-based talent, right? I think that probably is what helped them rise to the top of the list.
Yep.
I should have gotten that right, I feel like.
That's okay. There's one other call out though that I want to point out here on this graphic here is the Pac-12 with one signee within the top 100. LaKeelion Graves
There
out
you
of
go.
Kilgore High School. One
Well
of my
deserved.
favorites in the class of 2026. He is just
Eat 'em up.
so much fun to watch. A Texas State signee. He's been phenomenal. His
Oh, yeah.
entire varsity campaign that he's had at Kilgore, a couple of state championship runs for him in Kilgore as well. He's just such a dynamic player to watch, and he's got that high football IQ. He can play on the offense, he can play on the defense, he can play in special teams. He's just one of those guys that brings a lot to the table that I think Texas State is really going to like out of him.
I'm not going to be able to say it much better than that. I'll just say this. I cheated. I cheated on LaKeelion Graves' ranking because I rated him as an athlete. And go ahead, Texas State, take your time, figure out what position fits him best because I didn't have to.
Yeah, I know. He could pretty much play anywhere.
Yeah, there you
and he'll
go.
be fine. He'll make some kind of impact.
I love the athlete
Yeah,
category.
I know.
Any doubt, is he going to be a running back? Is he going to be a linebacker, wide receiver, DB, athlete?
Absolutely. So there you go. There is a quick breakdown of the Rising Hot 100 and how our in-state programs fared against out-of-state programs in the class of 2026. Let's round out this 2026 National Signing Day with a quick teaser
Let's do it.
for the class of 2027.
What? You recruiting? It's still here?
We're not just done. I
Recruiting
can't
never-
just close that and then be done.
Recruiting never sleeps.
Recruiting never sleeps. That is one thing that I've learned in my tenure here at Dave Campbell's is that recruiting never sleeps. And you have proved that with all the tasks that you've given me throughout the... No, I'm kidding. I enjoy
You
it.
get those late nights. Like, why are you working on Sunday at 11:30? Like, hey, it's recruiting season.
I know. And the first day that we get back into office, which was beginning of January, you're like, all right, let's start taking visits. Start reaching out to coaches. Let's see where we can go.
Commitment season. It's commitment season in 2027.
It is commitment season in 2027. So tell me a little bit about where your head's at in the class of 2027. We haven't made any official rankings yet for 2027. Now, we've given out a couple stars, most notably Landon Williams-Callis and Cooper Witten, both 5 stars in the
Yep.
class of 2027. Couple of 4 stars, Tylen Henderson, the newest 4-star in the DCTX rankings.
It's been blowing up, too.
And his recruitment's been blowing up. Yeah. So where's your head at with the class of 2027?
Well, my first impressions of the class of 2027 is we have our work cut out for us, especially when it comes
Yeah.
to evaluations and rankings. This is going to be, and we talked about it a few years back too, this is going to be one of the most epic classes.
Mm-hmm.
There are 70 to 75 guys who will be in the running for DCTX 4-star and 5-star status. Only the top 5 make it to 5 stars here at Dave Campbell's. If you're rated 1 through 5, you're a 5-star. It's been like that throughout the course of time here. If you're 6 through 50, then you're a DCTX 4-star. So to kind of explain the rankings process and how it works here, I think is very important. But where the pressure is going to come in is there are 25 guys who should be 4 stars based on talent. That's my early impression. So if you are an out-of-state program or a program that's looking to fill your coffers with elite guys, there's going to be talent to go around in this class. It's going to be an absolutely epic class. And I think at the top, you mentioned a guy that we already love. He's the most offered player. I'm going to guess he's the most offered player in the country. I think he's got close to 70 total scholarship offers. A true headliner as far as somebody who people want to watch on the field underneath the Friday night lights. Somebody who really moves the needle as far as interest goes, and that's Landon Williams-Callis from Richmond Randall. We've had a chance to watch him in the state championship games for 2 seasons in a row. We had a chance to watch him absolutely go off in the DCTX Rising Game of the Week. Statistically, he's one of the top guys in the entire state already, with still 1 full season left to go as a senior. And they're kicking off the 2026 season with a rematch against South Oak Cliff. That's
so
must
good.
watch. That's must watch TV right there, and that's going to be an absolute slugfest as those 2 teams now playing in different divisions, because Richmond Randall was 5A Division I and South Oak Cliff is still 5A Division II, which makes this non-district game viable. That is going to be something that you have to watch.
That is absolute must-see TV right there. Now, I've got one more question for you regarding the class of 2027. We've talked about it. This year definitely was the class of the running backs. Looking ahead to 2027, what's going to be the toughest position group for you to rank, do you think?
Offensive line.
Really?
I'm not even going to think about it, because the offensive line is really deep and it's really good. And Kennedy Brown is a guy who reminds me so much of Kelvin Banks. Also plays in Humble, plays at Humble Kingwood. Of course, Kelvin Banks played at Humble Summer Creek. Huge long arms, position versatility, could be a left tackle, could be a right tackle. And we saw that same type of thing with Banks. There was questions about would he stick at tackle, and of course he did. He got drafted in the 1st round. I think Kennedy Brown is somebody who's flying a little bit under the radar in a way, because he was injured throughout the course of his junior season. Not as many people actually speaking on his name as they should be, putting him up there along the greats. Texas A&M has a commitment from a guy who I think is really, really good, and that's Caden Scott. We talked about him whenever he started picking up his offers. I think he was the underclassman of the week or the rising prospect of the week back during the season. Legit size, legit tackle skills, already been named a Navy All-American. Texas A&M has got their class off to the right start with a guy like Caden Scott, who is in the 5-star conversation. Now, where the tricky part comes in, only 5 can be 5 stars, and we talked about the depth of how the competition is going to stack up for the 4 stars. Well, there's a lot of competition in the 5-star ranks as well, and I think Caden Scott is one of those guys who has justifiably put his name in the mix for that, and he's already made a commitment to Mike Elko and the Aggies. But I would be remiss. I have to at least make sure that we say his name, Ismail Kamara from Gilmer. This dude, he's a freak show.
He's a freak show. I got to see him in person this year.
Yeah.
I went all the way out to Beast, Texas.
Yeah.
To go see him.
I know that he instantly passes the eyeball test. I can remember the moment that he walked through the doors at the Next Level Athlete Texas Top 100 Showcase in Dallas last year, and everybody's jaw dropped. He went on to win MVP honors there, and then he went on to win MVP honors at everything. Wherever he went, he was the guy, and he had not even played a rep of varsity football in Texas. His offer list started to take off. Now every school in the country is chasing him. He was playing in the Polynesian Bowl as an All-American already, and he he kicked inside. He played guard. We've seen him play some tackle. We've seen him play some defense. I mean, he plays defensive tackle too, which talks to his footwork. But saw him play guard in that game. Woo! This dude, he's big and athletic. He is absolutely so fun
and
to watch.
Smart. He's just a smart kid too.
I think he speaks like 5 languages.
I know
already.
I know.
So
Great
story.
IQ, great story. I mean, we've got our work cut out for us in the class of 2027. I think so.
I think you need to get out to Gilmer and do the interview with him. You need to learn a second language.
And do that
for this,
and do
so
the interview.
so that you can do the interview
My IQ
with
will go
Kamara
higher.
in a different. That would be sick.
That would be pretty sick. So that means I probably have to quit my job working in recruiting.
No, that's part of your. That would be part of your job because you're doing research.
Okay, so are you going to pay for my Duolingo membership?
I am not going to pay for anything, but
that's fair.
The company will take care of you.
The company will take
Greg
care
Tepper.
of you. You heard it here first. Greg Tepper, give me a Duolingo membership so I can do this interview. All right, Powers. I think we can finally put the bow on the class of 2026. I mean, it's it's such a huge deal, no matter where you end up playing at the next level. I mean, it's such a huge deal just to have the opportunity to go play and to extend your career at the next level.
I agree 100%, and I'll take this moment to close the show out with a special tip of the cap, a special thanks to all the head coaches,
Yes.
all the assistant coaches, the recruiting coordinators, recruits' parents, and the recruits themselves that make this all possible here for us to help provide the fans the coverage, the insight, the behind the scenes of what goes on throughout the Texas high school football recruiting season, and take a day to actually kick back and enjoy that you are going to be able to sign your pen to paper if you haven't already, and know that you're going to be able to watch these dudes ball out in college. And that's where we have so much fun, right?
Yeah.
We get to watch Jackson Smith and Jigba play in the big game
I know.
this weekend. You know, former DCTX 5-star. We get to watch Caleb Von Chason playing the big game, and the list goes on and on. But they're playing on Saturdays. They go on to play on Sundays, and it all started right here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football, where legends begin.
Where legends begin. So with that being said, congratulations on the class of 2026 on signing your national letter of intent to go play college ball at the next level for Dave Campbell's Texas. From Dave Campbell's Texas Football, we are all rooting for you, and we're so happy that you get to represent the state of Texas in such a big way. For Mallory Hartley, that's Greg Powers. We'll see you. Thanks for tuning in for Dave Campbell's Rising, and we'll see you guys next month. Happy National Signing Day.